be recorded separately. And the reference librarians want to say thank you to Tricia, although she's going to stay here for a couple of minutes because one of the demos you'll see will involve Tricia. It's on this All Things Google handout. If you didn't get it, you can come back. This is essentially a website I created through what's called the Google, here, pass this down, the Google Sites. So if you want to create a website and have your links, you can do that through Google Sites. If you're interested on how to do it, come talk to me later. It's not too bad. It can be a little clunky. A lot of people like to use WordPress instead, but Google does have the functionality. I guess I should start out. Do you all have Google accounts? Okay, so to use all of these features, you need your Google account, but now that since you already have one, you're good to go. So the first thing I want to mention, sort of the legal stuff first, to get it out of the way, are the Google policies. You check out the policies just to know what you're agreeing to when you use all these wonderful features that Google is showing us. And so it's a little bit of a delay here. So actually what I'm going to do, so here you see the Google policies, and again you can Google policies to get here. The link is on that page. And the one thing I want to highlight is the privacy policy. Make an informed decision. Scroll through this quickly, get a sense of what information that you put in or other information that Google collects. Again, there's a little bit of a delay here. Sorry about that. You can get to this page. All I did with this page is just to give a place to show you the links that both Tricia and I are showing you. The page itself was created using the feature called Google Sites. So if you want to create your own page and have it look totally different, you would go into Google Sites and you can just Google Sites, and you could start from scratch and call it whatever you like.
There would be, I mean, we could still do work without having to go through that step. Is that to create a Google site?
The Google site allows you to create a web page. I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
So what's the advantage of creating a web page?
If you wanted to have a place to present information to other people.
Oh, I see. Okay. But if it was just for us, if it was just for me, information for myself.
Yeah, I wouldn't use Google Sites. You could I mean, if you're interested in various websites, you could bookmark them. There are a whole host of different ways. Bookmark's probably the most straightforward. But yeah, as I said, I'm not sure how many people would find Google Sites useful. I'm just sort of explaining what you're looking at there. But for instance, by my creating the site, I put all these links here so I can get to those links quickly and show you. I could also have created bookmarks to do the same thing. So one of those links on on this page is this privacy, which again, scrolling down, and I'm just recommending you take a look. So for instance, Google collects a lot of information. It's going to collect my credit card information if I put it in. It's going to basically collect everything I put in there. If I want it to, I can have Google remember my searches, which is nice if I want to go back to the searches, but we all have our different levels of creepiness. So that hits my level of creepiness, so I don't let Google do that. But I've made an informed decision, and I'm suggesting you make the same decision. Just see what they collect and then make up your mind how you want to proceed using Google. Okay, so that's the privacy. Another great feature, do any of you use Google Drive or Google Docs? Okay, so just briefly, for the folks who are less familiar, Google Drive is a cloud sharing facility. All that means is I can put documents up in the cloud, which means on the internet, and I can get to it from any computer, any device. So here on my laptop at Hofstra, I can get to my documents in Google Drive. I can go home and get to my documents in Google Drive. I can be in, where are you going?
Spain.
I can go to Spain and get to my documents on Google Drive. And this is what Google Drive looks like. And one of the aspects of Google Drive also, Google also gives us essentially software, which we don't have to install. Again, it's up there in the cloud and then internet. Gives us software to use. So I'm guessing most of you use Word. for word processing? And do you use spreadsheets, Excel? Google has simplified equivalents that you don't pay money for, hooray, and also you don't have to install and you can access anywhere. So here in my drive, I have one particular document. You can see the funky name. Again, I don't understand why we have this delay. Let's try that. So I click on one of the documents on my drive. And this is
shared it with me.
And this is a document that I shared with Tricia. And the other, in addition to just allowing me to do word processing, I mean, we all do that, it allows me to share a document. So look, Tricia is nowhere near my laptop. Tricia is typing me a message. Now, it's not so much a communication tool, but what you might also notice on this document are these different highlighting, different colors. On the side here are comments. What Tricia and I did with this document, for real, for our work purposes, we needed to edit it. We needed to update it. So we had it on Drive. I shared it with Tricia, and then we each made recommendations. Maybe we put stuff in blue to highlight, hey, I think I should add this. Or maybe I crossed out and I said, nah, I think we should delete this. We added comments, so I can insert a comment, and I could add a comment. What Tricia's doing, or giving us an example of, is we can also edit real time. If we discover, for instance, I see, oh look, Tricia's up here. So I can communicate with Tricia just as she is, oh, it's telling me it's unavailable. I knew I had connection problems. But you can see Tricia doesn't. So the point is you can do some live editing. If you're writing an article together, you can do it live, or you can do it asynchronously. In other words, at different times where you put in comments. Tricia, when we actually were working on this document, we actually did it more asynchronously than real time, just because that suited our schedules pretty well.
I've never done simultaneous editing with someone, any more than one person at a time. But when you do that, does it track who's made the change?
It does by,
Because how would you know who's made the change?
well, you're talking about the live editing.
Yes.
That's a good question. If this lets me edit, see, you can see when I'm here, so yes, it does. You can,
Oh, I see.
you see the tiny little pink thing up, see, it went away. I'm not fast
You have
enough.
to hover over it.
There we go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it also disappears, but you can hover for a second and I can
It
see,
tells
oh,
you.
and you can read it on your screen. I'm not sure you can really read it from back there, but you can see it clearly on your screen. And again, it's not letting me chat, but I can.
Does it do the same like Microsoft Word with accept changes, reject changes?
Not quite as sophisticated. I can go through the comments and resolve them,
Okay.
but it'll just make the comment go away. It won't incorporate what the comment says in the document. I have to do that manually. So it's definitely not as robust, sophisticated as Word is, but it has these online.
It's so much better than having 85 different attachment versions.
Exactly.
So that part is so much.
When we were working on this, when we were changing here, it's like suggest we delete this text. It was to highlight it, and then the suggestion is deleting this text. I could have replied to that particular comment. So we could get, oops. So if you're deleting and adding, it's kind of like you can put in your additions or your change, add the comment as to why you are making that addition or change, and then the person or people you are working with can reply to it in comment. So it's not as functional as the Word, but it does permit you to keep track of who is saying what and when they say it.
So if you were in a big group, for instance, if your team consisted of maybe 4 people, and you were all working on one document, and all these changes are being made, and, you know, you're in the heat of the moment, there's a lot of confusion, you want to compare the old document with the new one with all the changes, would you say that it would be better to be done in Microsoft Word as opposed to here?
If you do need to keep a record, I mean, for instance, if you're drafting a document, you're representing a client and drafting a document, and they're giving it to the person that the client's doing the deal with, and giving it to that person's lawyer, attorney, which can happen with drafting, probably Word is going to be better because you can track the changes. Definitely less of that capability. I don't think there's any revision history for Google Docs. I don't know of one. I would have to get back to you to say for sure there is not one.
Now, we've actually done things similar to what you're talking about, and
Yeah, because
generally,
in
what
legal
will happen?
documents, most of the time in legal documents, when changes are being made, you need to track the changes, and you need to take a look at the black lining or red lining, whatever you prefer to call it nowadays, and you need to be able to compare the old and the new.
Well, this does it, again, just not in as clean a manner. I mean, these tracked all the changes we made because we left them in there. We then downloaded it, we saved it, downloaded it and saved it as another document and cleaned it up with the changes. This by no means is a replacement to that. This is a simplified alternative. And it does have the live. Now, Microsoft has its OneDrive that you can have documents on, and I haven't used that, so I can't say anything about it. I don't know if it has similar capabilities with Word with all of the sophisticated track changes. I would imagine they're moving in that direction because Microsoft knows Google has this and they're trying to compete. But I can't say for sure.
This probably works well if you have 1 or 2, or a manageable number of people making the changes rather than a lot of people.
Again, I think it works well if you don't have to keep track.
Yeah.
If you just need to make the changes and then have a new document where everybody has contributed. This enables the conversation. It doesn't enable the record keeping. I'm going to move on because we have a couple of demos. I've got people waiting. So I'm just going to show you quickly some of the other features. What I'm going to show you here, in addition to Google Docs, so word processing, we have forms. So you can create forms on Google, and here's an example of what you might do with a form. You'll see on your handout on our Googlerific page, or All Things Google page, if you look on the other side or scroll down from the page, you'd see there's actually an evaluation for this session, which would be great if you would fill out, but just for the moment. So here's what that evaluation looks like online. And again, here's what the evaluation looks like when I made the form. So on the back end, so I went into Google Forms and I created these form settings and I put in my description. And again, this is actually really easy to use. This is much nicer than using the Google Sites we talked about earlier. So this took me no time at all to put together. Google does have, you can download these Google apps, so I actually have these apps on my laptop, so I can go directly into Google Docs or Google Forms, and because I'm signed in, it goes directly to my account.
I bookmark them.
You can do that too.
Yeah, everybody does it a little differently.
So here's the Google Products page. I highly recommend you take a look at this because there's a lot of stuff obviously we're not going to cover today. And as I was taking my own advice and scrolling down, I saw way here at the bottom, hey look, there is a Google Print. cloud print. So I'm thinking to myself, self, maybe I can print from my iPad finally, because my printer at home isn't iPad compatible. Don't know that that works yet, but Google moves along, and it's always good just to browse and see, what cool things do they have today. And along those lines, cool things that Google allows you, going back to Gmail, you all have Google accounts. I'm guessing, do you all use Gmail? Okay, I know you do for Hofstra. I know you all have to know how to use Gmail, but there are a couple of cool features I want to point out. One is Boomerang. Boomerang actually isn't Google. It's an add-in to Google. Boomerang allows you to say, oh look, here's a message. I need to remember this a week from now. I want it to show up in my inbox next week. So I remember it. I can boomerang it to myself. So I choose a message. I'm just going to choose a random one. Click on Boomerang. And then I make my choices. Do I want it, a week? I could boomerang it to myself in 3 minutes if for some weird reason I want to do that. So that's Boomerang. The other thing in Gmail that's kind of cool to know about is just what are called labs. So if I go here to Settings, come on, and up here in Settings, Labs, way here on the right. And this is just all the cool Google things that Gmail is playing with. So you can see the ones I've enabled are on top. So one of them you might have noticed I have 0 messages up here. That's a Google Lab, so I can, if I get a message, it'll have the number 1 or the number 2. So I'll always see, oh look, I have a new message, which is good and bad because it's also very distracting if you're working. So you may or may not want that, but you can go through. You can see I've enabled a bunch of them, and I scroll down, there are a whole bunch that I haven't enabled, but I go here every now and again just to see what Gmail has that's new that might be fun to play with or useful to play with. So that's Gmail Labs. Another aspect, not so much of Gmail, Tricia mentioned this with reference to Google Scholar, you can set up alerts through Google. So if there's an issue or a news item, or you're wondering if your favorite artist is going to be performing in New York soon, you can set up just a Google search, which searches all of Google, and set up an alert so that you get email saying, here's a page that mentions your search terms. So I get these various, you see these Google alerts here? On these various searches I've set up. And again, it's really easy. The link is on that page, or you can just Google Alerts. Oddly enough, Google on that products page I showed you used to show alerts, but doesn't anymore. To echo what Tricia said earlier, Google's great and then it decides to change things. It gets tired of its old toys. It's like a kid. Oh, that one's boring. We're not playing with that one anymore. And it takes it off the page and it's like, I use that. I love that. So that's one of the downsides of Google. So that's alerts. Another aspect, I'm really way behind here, Google Voice. This is where I wanted to do the demo. So
Is she going to call?
she might. So Diane, would you call that number, and then you're going to, Google gives you telephone capability. You have to have web access.
What number am I calling?
This number right here, 516-418. Basically, through my Gmail account, I set up a phone number. And what that allows me to do, and I'm going to go here in Google Voice in Settings, I can have people call that number and I can direct it to other phone numbers. So Diane is going to get a message from my office voicemail because I've got it set. That's me. I have it set to go to that number between 9 and 5. I can have it set to go to my cell after 5 o'clock or my home number, however you want to set it up. And who's calling me via Hangouts? I have a hunch. This is my last demo.
Is that me?
I don't think so.
Hang up.
Hang up, if you would.
But Courtney wants to know if you're going to call her.
Yeah,
Oh.
well, I'm getting there. I'm just behind
Here.
as I usually, because this is very answering call. I don't know who that is.
That's me.
Oh, that's you.
That's me.
Stop calling me. Anyway, what I wanted, the The other thing Google Voice will do, and then I will get to Hangouts, is Google Voice will transcribe the message. So if Diane had left a message, "Hi Lisa, I'm calling you because you asked me to," you would see some version of that. The transcription isn't great, so you might be able to read this. So this was me calling myself from another phone. So here's a test message from Opaline, which isn't what I said, for demonstration purposes. I think I said from Google Voice, and somehow that got transcribed to Opaline. But it keeps the transcription of what goes on. So Google Voice also is what I was mentioning to you, Diane, earlier. If you go abroad, you can set up a Google Voice to be able to have some phone capability. You probably do need to have wireless access. You need to find a wireless hotspot. When you set up Google Voice, you get an introductory Google message, and that tells you where to find out more about international calling.
Is that similar to FaceTime audio?
Probably yes. What's
Minus the voicemail part, because it doesn't have, I wish they had voicemail.
Yeah. Interesting you mentioned FaceTime, because I am finally going to get to my demo. Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts is a video. You can use just regular chat, and that's actually what most people do, is they just use it when, for whatever reason, they don't have texting capability. They're on their computer and they don't, you can use a regular chat. You can also make it a video, or you don't have to have video. You can turn off the camera, so it's just voice. And what I've set up, if this works, with two colleagues, you gotta love. So I'm going to hang out with Courtney and Shika, and these are in my contacts, and I'm going to say video call. And I'm gonna hope it works. And it's essentially just like FaceTime with the video, except, and this is the big except, you can do more than two people. FaceTime only allows two people. I'm already in the other call. Okay, so you see my lovely visage up there. Yay! Hi, Courtney.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Sorry we're late. Technical trouble as usual.
Oh, that's
Hey.
no problem.
Hey, there's Shika. So as you can see, there are three people. I can actually highlight their pictures. So you see Shika instead of Courtney. The other cool thing I can do, which is very different from FaceTime, I can share my desktop. You can see there's a chat feature. This is screen share. So I can say I want to share my entire screen and share. And then I can, and so Courtney and Shika will be seeing this, and if I do this right, they're going to see something somewhat silly in a moment, I hope.
Me too.
Oh, there we go. That's for you, Courtney. Shika, I know you're a pet person too, so hopefully you get a kick out of it as well.
I'm a pet person and a beer person, so this is double plus good.
So I couldn't resist. Anyway, the point, you obviously can be a lot more serious about it and share, like we were sharing the document, you could do that, or just share what you're working on, or if you're going through and working on a presentation, that might be a way to do this. And then I can stop sharing when I'm done. And as you can see there, and here, there's a little bit of a delay, but I find that with FaceTime as well. I don't know if you find the same thing. And it does eventually happen. Come on. You also hear the feedback, which is a little disconcerting.
Now, one downside of going out on iPad is that you don't have to do things, put forms on your head. Well, I have to make them manual.
I'm trying to get out of the screen share, and it's not letting me. Let's go away. Well, let's. All right. Oh, there we go. There's Shika. And there's Courtney. And Courtney, okay, Courtney, you can, it does funky effects, so you can put hats on people and more silly things. You can share YouTube. Again, obviously the screen share can be serious. But that's Google Hangouts. So again, it has the chat. I know a lot of people, I was just chatting with, as it were, Jessica, one of the IT folks, and she uses Google Hangout chat to communicate with colleagues when they're at a computer and they don't have their phone to text, or for whatever reason the phone reception is not great. So then it's a chat function.
I was just thinking, you were talking about Google Drive using the documents. Imagine having your Drive document up and you're in chat at the same time. So you can actually do that as a...
Yeah, lots of different ways. Okay, any questions for me, Sheikah or Courtney?
What do they see on that screen? They see you as the main screen, and then each one of them in the bottom?
Yeah, I see on the main, and then I see Pika and my
At the bottom. Oh,
Yeah, so they see,
you. as
and you
the
can switch main screens. So if I want to see Sheikah, and this goes up to 10. So you can have 10 participants. And I have tried it on the iPhone, and as I was joking with someone, it's supposed to work, I couldn't get it to work. So I think Apple and Google don't always play well together.
I've only been able to use it on my laptop, not on my iPad or phone.
Actually, I think, Courtney, you're on the iPad, right?
I'm on the iPad. I'm on an older iPad. It's on the iPad 2.
Yeah, I've managed to get it to work on the iPad. That didn't seem so bad. I couldn't get it to ring on my iPhone so that I could pick up the call. I could make a call from the iPhone out, but that could just be my kind of figuring it out. Any questions? Thank you very much. Apologies for the delay. And then I'm going to say goodbye. And then you just,
Have a good one.
thank you, you too. Hang up. Any questions? Sorry for the technical difficulties, that always happens. Actually, only with the chat in the docs, so we did okay. Any questions? I hope you saw something of interest, new and fun and different.
This is very good.
Okay, grab some pizza on the way out. I'm going to click on